Power to the truth. This is Margo. This is Wednesday, December 26th, 2018. It's 5:39 p.m. Pacific Time, United States of America. And tonight we're going to do another earthquake update. And I've got some other stuff to go over first. I'm going to try and keep this fairly short. But we've had a lot of activity. And first of all, remember how I said that the earthquake numbers were down yesterday, and I thought that the people who were causing the earthquakes took Christmas off and we'd see. So yesterday, when I did my video, we started with 203 earthquakes, all magnitudes around the world. And it was around that amount while I was doing the video. And then after that, it went down to, I think I saw the lowest of 193. And then they started going back up. And now today, now that everybody's back at work and back doing everything, we're showing 251. So, there you go. So I think that a lot of these earthquakes are being caused by activity, all kinds of activity, and we're going to go over some more of that tonight. And the guys who were causing it took off for Christmas yesterday. So we're going to start with I want to just start with some comments over on my YouTube channel, and then we're going to look at some stuff on NASA Worldview and some stuff from that chapter from the book, the chapter How to Wreck the Environment by Gordon MacDonald. And it's all going to play into what we're going to be looking at tonight. First, I want to if people are not familiar with Dinglejack, he's one of my followers over here on YouTube, and he's a scientist and has degrees in science and physics, and can do all these calculations with gigatons and stuff like that. And so he helps me out when we're trying to figure out readings and things like that on methane and sulfur dioxide and certain things. So he had left a comment under my high Arctic methane readings video from a couple of weeks ago about 1 gigaton burst of methane, how much it would raise the atmospheric concentrations. But he had a correction. He posted this yesterday, and I wanted to bring it to everyone's attention in case you were wondering about that. He says, correction, the land mass of the Arctic Circle is 4% of the total. Since the atmosphere is much colder and thinner at the Arctic, the percent total atmosphere is certainly less than 4%, so I figured 3%. That means my estimate of 1 gigaton is high. It's closer to 0.3 gigatons that would raise the concentration by 1900 parts per billion. Considering that there are only 5 gigatons of methane currently in the atmosphere, that's still a significant release. The danger is that we get into that as we get into the Arctic summer, these emissions will increase. And I responded and said, thank you for the clarification, Dinglejack. Yes, 1900 parts per billion increase is definitely considerable. I agree, the next summer will show higher emissions as well. As we can see, we still have methane emissions from the Arctic even in the middle of winter. And then he responded and said, I want to be accurate since a gigaton is huge. Something like this happened in 2012, so we'll see. And And if people will recall, in 2012, that's when the Arctic sea ice was at its lowest extent ever. The summer, that melt season was at its lowest extent ever. The concentration was better than what we had, but the extent, how far it went out, was the lowest ever, 2012. So we'll see what happens this summer. So thank you, Dinglejack, for that update. And if people want to see the original comment, they can go to my video of high Arctic methane readings, and it's under there. And there was a good discussion underneath my my recent sulfur dioxide, ozone, methane, and earthquake update video. And so I just want to go over that. And when we have good discussion like this, I'm going to bring it out so that so that if you're not reading the comments and keeping up with the discussions, I can bring it forth in the video, especially since I'm doing one pretty much every day. So this was from Todd Garfield. He's one of my new followers. He says sulfur dioxide is a global cooling gas. It is theorized Mount Tambora caused what is known as the Year of No Summer in 1816. And he put a link to that. Then Dave Harris responded and said sulfur dioxide does indeed cool the atmosphere. However, the effect is short-lived, but it is likely keeping the Earth from going into catastrophic thermal runaway. The other aspect of sulfur dioxide is that it is converted into sulfurous acid when dissolved into water, leading to far more potent ocean acidification than would occur by CO2. The seafloor is literally melting away, and the shellfish cannot make their shells. SO2, or sulfur dioxide, is still a dangerous gas and with substantial negative effects on our oceans. And then I commented and said, not to mention what it's doing to the ozone layer, because it tears up the ozone layer. And Dave Harris responds and says, that's entirely true. SO2 does degrade ozone. We are fortunate that it's a short-lived gas in the atmosphere. And then Dave left another comment just a few minutes ago. He says, Margo's Healing Corner, I want to thank you so much for these updates. You're the only one doing such a thorough job. I really do appreciate all the hard work you put into these updates. And I said, you're welcome, Dave Harris. Thank you for the wonderful feedback. So, I'm doing my best to bring these updates. I'm not monetized. I don't get any money for doing this. I'm not a climate scientist, and I don't ask for donations or anything like that. I do holistic life coaching. I'm retired. I have a small Social Security check every month, and then so I'm pretty much on poverty level, but I'm not complaining because this is important work. And God has told me to do this, and especially to do the earthquakes now, because something's getting ready to pop, and I don't think we have much longer here, and so I'm not worried about the money. I'm worried about getting the information out and showing people the truth and helping to connect the dots and bringing forth research and you know, especially like these books and papers and stuff from 1968 where they knew all about this and were planning it, and now it's all coming to pass. And what I'm going to show you tonight is going to shock you on this, and it plays right into the what's happened in the last few days with Krakatoa erupting and Mount Etna erupting and stuff like that. So that's just a little bit more about why I'm doing this work. And so I really appreciate the kind comments, because I'm not doing this for fame and fortune. I'm doing this to help all of you out there get as much good information as you can in an easy to understand manner, so that you can figure it out for yourself and make up your own minds about what to do, especially as we're coming down to these end times. And then one more, let's see, one more comment. Troy Turton asked that I please put the link about Vietnam in the comments section here, please. And this was under the video from last night where I talked about Vietnam. They used weather modification during Vietnam, and it was from, so here's my response. And normally I'm not going to go put all this stuff under comments and stuff, so I'm just telling everybody, I already left links under the videos. You can go look this up yourself. So I did this, and I'm not going to do this all the time, and you know, if I have time I will, but anyway, this is for information. This is from the paper 50 Years After, How to Wreck the Environment, that I did a whole video on, and I left the link under there. So, you know, I don't want people to be lazy about this research, and I don't want to be the only one doing this. I mean, I'm spoon feeding it to you, so you know, to spoon feed it to you 2 or 3 times the same information, I'm not going to do. So here it is, and here's the quote from the paper. Weather became a weapon of war during the Vietnam War, when cloud seeding operations were conducted to extend the monsoon season over the Ho Chi Minh Trail to impede movement of supplies and troops. It was called Operation Popeye. And here's the link to the paper again, this 50 Years After, How to Wreck the Environment. And this is on page 3. That part is on page 3, and it's right here where he's talking about results and discussion. And the military planners wanted to control the weather, and they discovered in 1946 that clouds, when seeded with silver iodide or dry ice, solid carbon dioxide, could result in rain or snow. So it's all right there, okay? And now I want to show you NASA Worldview. What we're looking at, this is Sicily. It's a close-up view. This is the island of Sicily from today, December 26th, the satellite view. And here's Mount Etna right here. When you zoom, that's I mean, once you get too close in, it all gets blurry. Here's Mount Etna, and it's been erupting. And look at this weird thing, this weird plume that's coming out, and how far down it's going. It doesn't look normal. It seriously does not look normal. It's like this blue-green, and it goes out like, I don't know if that's supposed to be smoke from the explosion or what, but look how far down it goes, and it goes out in a little, it goes down into a little V shape, and then it fans out. You can also see evidence of beaming here with the ripples in the clouds. This is evidence of beaming, like HAARP. It may not be HAARP. They have such sophisticated beaming things now, and I can't remember the names of all of them, but I wanted to show you that weird, it's just weird, this weird thing coming out of Mount Etna, and I don't know if it's light from like the explosion coming out like that. I have no clue. So if anybody has an idea, you can put it in the comments below. And I wanted to show you some more evidence of beaming and the chemtrails, the spraying over here further west in the Mediterranean Sea today. It's insane. The whole western side from this island, I don't know the name of that, sorry. Anyway, it's like covered. It's covered. It's insane. This is all. It's crisscross. I mean, this is from the spraying, folks. Look at this, and it's covering France. Those are not normal clouds, seriously. And I'm flipping out. I'm flipping out with this. That's insane. There's France, and it's covered. It's covered. And anyway, now I'm going to show you some more evidence of beaming around Mount Etna here in the last few days. So let's just kind of go back. Here's the 25th. A lot of times, okay, here's Sicily. It was really cloudy yesterday. If it's too cloudy, you can't see evidence of the beaming. Here you go. Here's the 24th. And this is, I mean, there are ripples all over in this picture. Here's Sicily. Here's Mount Etna. And here we can see the cloud coming up from Mount Etna. But look at the ripples over here. Ripples here. Ripples here. All the way around. And it's all, I mean, all over the island and around it. It's beaming, and it's in different directions. It's like hatch marks with the way the circular things go. Now I'm going to show you something else. This is going to flip you out. Let me see if I can. Okay, here we go. Look at this western end of Sicily. Look at those lines. See, when you have those consistent lines like that are straight or kind of arced, that's signs of beaming. Ripples in the clouds. And there you go, all around there. See, it's in a circular pattern. So they were beaming the Mount Etna area and Sicily for days beforehand. let's see. There was one more I wanted to show. Here it is. This is from the 22nd. Look up here as I zoom in. Look at this. You see that? The ripples in this cloud? That is beaming. Right there. So they're using these things for whatever reason. It's all diabolical to mess with everything, and then they're spraying, and it's a whole thing. So and I wanted to show you, while we're on NASA Worldview, that Krakatoa is totally cloud covered and has been cloud covered this week, and so we can't see what's going on there. Okay, here's Java and here's Sumatra and here's Krakatoa. Here, those little 4 islands, and see, it's totally cloud covered. Here's today, here's yesterday. I looked for beaming over here and I couldn't find any that was just like in your face, like I found at Mount Etna. So this whole week, now see, there it is in that black zone. So that's back to the 19th. So now, before we get into our earthquake report, I want to show, well, these 2 earthquakes are about to fall off of the map. That was it. No, I've got time. That's going to stay on the map. So, this is from that chapter from the book Unless Peace Comes, How to Wreck the Environment by Gordon MacDonald. And when I did part 1, I got through 5 pages, the first 5 pages on this. It's 10 pages. It's a PDF file. I recommend people go there and download it so that you have it and can read it yourself. He talks all about climate modification, weather modification, earthquake modification, modifying the sea ice, Antarctica, the ice sheets, the ice shelf. Once the ice shelf is in the ocean, it'll melt, blah blah blah. I'm gonna finish this in another video, but I wanted to present this to you today. Earthquake modification, because it seems like this is what we're seeing. I'm going to skip on down. Where was it? Here we go. Modification of the oceans. He says we're still in the very early stages of developing the theory and techniques. This is from 1968, remember, for predicting the state of the oceans. In the past 2 decades, methods have been devised for the prediction of surface waves and surface wind distribution. A warning system for the tsunamis or tidal waves produced by earthquakes has also been developed. Certain currents within the oceans have been identified, but we do not yet know what the variable components are, that is, what the weather within the ocean is. Thus, we have not been able to identify any instabilities with the ocean circulation that might be easily manipulated. As in the case of the solid Earth, we can only speculate tentatively about how oceanic processes might be controlled. One instability offering potential as a future weapon system is that associated with tsunamis. Okay, pay attention, class. We're getting to the important part. Think of Krakatoa here. These frequently originate from the slumping into the deep ocean of loosely consolidated sediments and rocks perched on the continental shelf. Movement of these sediments can trigger the release of vast quantities of gravitational energy, part of which is converted in the motion of the tsunami. For example, if along a 1,000-kilometer edge of a continental shelf, a block 100 meters deep and 10 kilometers wide were dropped a distance of 100 meters, about 100 megatons of energy would be released. This release would be catastrophic to any coastal nation. How could it be achieved? A series of phased explosions, perhaps setting off natural earthquakes, would be a most effective way. I could even speculate on planning a guided tidal wave where guidance is achieved by correctly shaping the source which releases energy. So there you go. So he was talking about this in 1968. And so when we're looking at what happened at Krakatoa, and now also what's happening at Mount Etna, you know, it's going off, and I imagine there's going to be some tidal waves over there if things get rocking and rolling over there. But Krakatoa is exactly what he's describing here, where the thing collapsed underneath and had a landslide underneath the ocean, underneath the water, and caused the water to be the tsunami and come in and wipe out the whole beach area and come in so far and killed all those people. So there you go. And that's a seismically active region. And so what Gordon MacDonald is saying, that to use this stuff as warfare, they take a weak part, or an area that's already seismically active, or is like a volcanic area, and then they tweak it. They learn to tweak it. They didn't have the techniques back then to beam it or tweak it or heat it up or make it move or collapse or whatever, but they got it now. And we saw over NASA Worldview that they're doing it. They're doing it. So, just giving you some food for thought. So, here we are on USGS. And we've got 250 earthquakes on the map now. And this is all magnitudes. I'm going to start over here with these two because they're going to be dropping off soon. This is what's going on in Italy, or off the coast of Sicily. Today, it's not off the coast, it's on the land. That's new. No, that was from yesterday. Okay. 5.0. Let's look at the details on this. 5.0, 2 kilometers east-northeast of I can't say that. Crecastogni, Italy, 1 kilometer deep. here it is. Here's Mount Etna up here. So it was right next to, I mean, it's right at the base of the volcano. So you know that's going to be triggering explosions and things. You know it is. And then we also had over here, right on the other side, a 4.6 at Lithokia, Greece that was 10 kilometers deep. And so these were both yesterday. So I want to show you what's happened in the last couple of days over here in the Mediterranean next to Sicily and next to Greece. We've had the orange earthquakes are the recent ones today. Here's the 5.0 from yesterday that happened at 6:19 p.m. my time. And then there was this one, the 4.6 that happened over here by Greece at 11:37 p.m. my time. So just within a few hours, they both set off. And then we have this yellow one, this 4.3 that happened off the coast of Sicily, right next to Mount Etna, on December 24th at 8:50 in the morning my time. And then over here we actually had two in the ocean on the 24th. Here was a 4.8 at 5:41 p.m. my time, and here's a 4.4 on the 22nd at 9:46. So things have been moving over here, and then there have been a couple of others. Wish that wouldn't do that. Over here by Crete as well. So things have been moving over here, and we've got some red lines, some plate lines going through there. So this is an active area as well. So I'm going to leave this. I don't think I need this map open anymore, so I'm going to let that go. Wait. I don't want to close all my tabs. I just wanted to close that one. Okay, so I'm going back over to my earthquake, all magnitudes. So got to get everything lined up the way I like it. So now we're just going to go around the globe like we did last night, and we've had a 5.0 southeast of Lake, Burma, was 91 kilometers deep. That's good sized. That is definitely good sized. And then down here in Indonesia, we've had a 4.6 at Kampung Baru, Indonesia, 42 kilometers deep. I'm going to zoom in. We've had a 4.5 at Caburan, Philippines, 66 kilometers deep. 4.5 at Papua New Guinea, 69 kilometers deep. 4.6 at the Solomon Islands, 10 kilometers. Then we've had 2 large earthquakes at Vanuatu, a 5.0 that was 151 kilometers deep, and a 5.1 at Vanuatu, 35 kilometers deep. So with these larger ones and that are deep, it's going to make the plates move around the world. You're going to see movement around the world from this. It'll make the other plates move. Here we had a 4.3 in Fiji at 558 kilometers deep. Very deep. That was very deep. 5.6 at Tonga, 83 kilometers deep. And a 5.0 at Tonga, 10 kilometers deep, right on that red line. Right on that Pacific plate line. So things are moving. Things are happening. And I think people are feeling it in the air that something is up. Something is up. And everyone feels that something big is going to happen. Here's a 4.1 at the Izu Islands in Japan, 427 kilometers deep, another deep one. Here's a 4.8 at Ofunato, Japan, 42 kilometers deep. It was in the ocean. That's not quite big enough to cause a tsunami, but there's that. Then up here off the coast of Kamchatka, Russia, we've had 2 more earthquakes, and we've had a 4.4, this blue one, that was 10 kilometers deep, and a 4.3 that was 10 kilometers deep. And then we've got this little tiny quake over here. This part of the Aleutian Islands, a 1.9 at the Tanaga volcano, Alaska, 12.2 kilometers deep. Now let's look at Alaska while we're up here. We've got 81 earthquakes on our map here, including this one down here that I just showed, and including these 2 over here. So I'm not going to go over every single one of them, but so we have less earthquakes up here than we've had in the last few days, but so this is like 2.8. When they show up blue over here in the map, that's the one I've highlighted. Here's 2.7, and these are all happening kind of in the same place. 2.2, so they're in the 2s. Here's a 2.9, that's almost in a 3. That's getting up higher. That's in the Anchorage area. And then we got them in the 1s. 1s to 2s, 2.4 at Big Lake, and so forth. So here's a 3.1. So we can see that we're getting some larger ones over here. They may be fewer, but they're not just the little tiny ones. Here's a 2.9 at Big Lake again. And so on and so forth. So those are 1s and 2s, and then that 1.3. So there's that. And now let's go down to Hawaii. Now we've seen an uptick of earthquakes here. Well, not really an uptick, but like this is a bigger one. This was a 3.6 that happened in the ocean this afternoon, and 131 kilometers west-southwest of Kailua Kona, Hawaii. And then these others are on the mainland. We've got 7. And here's, I've still got that one on the map, that 3.6. And so these others are like a 2.7 at Volcano, Hawaii, 2.1 at Volcano, and so forth. And 2s, here's a 2.7. Okay, I showed all that. So that's what's going on in Hawaii. Now, down here in South America, we've had a 3.9 at Los Andes, Chile. 116 kilometers deep. That's pretty deep. So 3.9, I'm not sure if that's enough to cause damage. I know that that the one over off the coast over in Italy, that 5 point whatever, that caused some damage and it injured some people. So it just depends on the area and like what their structures are like and how heavily populated it is and stuff like that. Now over here in the Dominican Republic, this is an active area. We have 20 earthquakes and 3.2 British Virgin Islands. Here's a 3.0 at Puerto Rico. So these are 3s. Here's 2.9. So that's very close to the 3. So they're getting larger. It looks like they're getting larger in magnitude to me. The lowest I see is a 1.6. And just a few in the ones 1.6, 1.8, 1.8, 1.8, 1.8, and then they're getting up into the 2s and into the 3s. So those are getting bigger. So we're going to keep an eye on that area. Now up in the United States, here we have a 3.3 that happened at Snyder, Texas, 5 kilometers deep. That is oil. They're big oil drillers there. Up here in the Yellowstone area, and let's turn on our hazards map for you to see the hazard zone where we're seeing these earthquakes. This is the Yellowstone area where it's the hazard zones. So we've got, how many here? 15. So that's an uptick. Well, that's, I gotta move it over and get those Nevada ones off the map. Well, I wish that wouldn't do that. There. We've got 10 in this hazard area all the way from up here 1.2 at Old Faithful Geyser, Wyoming. We've got 2 here. We've got a 2.5 at Soda Springs, Idaho, and a 3.1 at Soda Springs, Idaho. Now this 2.5 is a minus 3.5 kilometers deep. Now when you see it in the minus range, that means that the epicenter of the earthquake was up inside the mountain. That was not at ground level or below. And if it didn't have the minus, it was below the ground. So this means it was above the ground, a minus 3.5 kilometer, and that was a 2.5 magnitude. And so that means there's magma moving and coming up in there, and that's triggering that earthquake. So there's movement there. So we're going to be watching this Yellowstone area very closely. Here's a 1.2 at Morgan, Utah, 8.6 kilometers deep. Okay. Then we've got, as we're moving down, we've got these 2, and then we've got some down here. I'm just going to pull them off over here. 1.0 Fillmore, Utah, 2.3 Fillmore, Utah, 1.2 Fillmore, Utah. So we had 3 down there at Fillmore, and then a 0.6 at Monroe, Utah, 1.5 at Helper, Utah, up here, and a 1.4 at Helper, Utah. So we're starting to see these almost little swarms. They're groups of earthquakes over here in Utah now. So we got all of those. So let's go over to Nevada. We'll start down here. We're seeing a cluster, the cluster down here. This is all hazard zone. I'm going to turn that off. It's kind of annoying with the color. It's hard to see. We've got, how many here? 15 in this area. 0.0, 0.0, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, 0.3, 0.3, 0.5, 0.2, 0.5, a minus 0.3, 0.5, and 0.6, all at Beatty, Nevada. They're calling those at Beatty, Nevada. And then minus 0.1 at Pahrump, minus 0.3 at Pahrump, 0.2 at Beatty, 0.1 at Beatty. Let's see, let's do a zoom in. Look at this cluster. I would say this is a swarm here. They're all in the same place. So I wonder if some kind of testing was going on that that was causing that. This is part of the Nevada test site. So probably something was going on underground there today. 8 earthquakes right there. Those are the 0.1s to 0.3 to 0.5. And it looks like 1 when you zoom out. You can't tell until you zoom in on them. Okay, coming on up. Man, I'm getting hoarse. Then we've got 3 right in here, outside of Hawthorne. These are smaller ones. Well, here's a 1.2 at Hawthorne, 0.7 up here. That was on the road, right in the middle of the road. Hawthorne, 1.0 down here. Here's a 0.2 down here at Hawthorne. 0.6 at Grass Valley over here, on the other side of the California border. 0.3 Hawthorne, 0.1 Hawthorne. So we're seeing an uptick in 1.2 at Smith Valley, Nevada here. So we're seeing an uptick in these small ones, aren't we? Here we had one down by Gardnerville of 1.4. I think we saw that yesterday. We've got a couple down by Carson City. Again at Prison Hill, a minus 0.2 and a 0.7. We've got one up here at 0.4 up here in the mountains north of Incline Village. And here's Mount Rose over here. They're skiing up there right now. This is Lake Tahoe here. And then there was one at Pyramid Lake, not in the lake, but on the edge. It says Spanish Springs. It was a 0.8, but that was Pyramid Lake. And then over here, a 1.2 at Portola. And I think that's all of Nevada. Now let's go from Southern California up the coast and we'll be done. We just had one come in off the coast of San Diego, a 1.8, off the coast of La Jolla, 17 kilometers deep. Oh, look at this. Los Angeles had a 3.4. 8 kilometers east-southeast of Lucerne Valley that came in at 5:15 this afternoon. 1.9 kilometers deep. Now that's a big one. That was probably big enough for people to feel. So that came in right before I started my report. And here's the San Andreas fault line, this red line coming through. And let's see, we've got some little ones down, peppered through these areas. 0.9, 0.8, 1.6, 1.5, 1.4, and then, okay. Let's go. Here's a cluster. Here's 3 right here at Imperial, California. And these were all within the same time. Okay, 501 was a 1.4, at 502 was a 1.5, and at 517 was a 1.6. All right there at Imperial, California. Wonder what caused that. So I've been looking into harmonic tremors, and those can cause an earthquake to happen, and that's what happens before an earthquake, where the earth starts moving and it's picked up on a seismograph. Okay, that's a 1.7 there. Here's a 0.9 at Pine Valley. and these are small ones. Let's go up here to Kauai Valley. Now this is picked up. There's 25 on our viewing area here, including these two over here. And let's see the magnitude on these. They're less than ones, then up to into the ones. Okay, so like 0.5 and 0.4 and up to like a 1.4. Here's a 0.7 at Palomar Observatory. I can't even, oh, it's right down here, right at the right there, Palomar Observatory. So here's a 1.0 at Idlewild and this and that. So, and we have our stray volcanoes here, and not volcanoes, earthquakes. Here's a 1.0 at Calamasa, California. And Victorville, 3.4. Oh, that's the one we just saw. Let's come on up this coastline, and we've got some just pepper. Here was one at 1.3 at Colma, California. That's right on the coast near San Francisco. And then here's one down here, a 1.0 at Alum Rock. And then here's our cluster up here, 23 up here at the geysers. And here's a 2.2 at Kelseyville. So 22 right here. 22 earthquakes right there. They're small, like at the Kelseyville. I didn't mean to do that. I'm trying to scroll down. It looks like that Kelseyville one was the largest. I'm sorry. It's screwing up. Yeah, the rest are under 1 and like the 1.9 up to 1.9. And then the Kelseyville one was the largest, the 2.2. And then there was one up here at Redding, a 1.6 at Redding, and we've had one at Mount Shasta, a 1.6 at Mount Shasta. So that's significant. So we want to keep an eye on all of those. And then we've had some up here in Washington State. Here's one outside of Seattle, a 2.3 at Union Hill, Novelty Hill, Washington, 12 kilometers deep. 0.3 at Peckwood, Washington. 1.0 at Morton, Washington, and a 1.2 at Morton, Washington. So we can see that all of these are near these red lines, and so we want to keep an eye on all of these. And I'm going to keep doing these daily earthquake reports if I have the energy to do it. You know, it's getting hard. Let's see what's come in the last few minutes. We just had a 4.7 come in at Papua New Guinea, 10 kilometers deep, and we've had some small ones come in up at Alaska. We had a 0.9 come in at Pine Valley, California. And we had a 2.8 come in at Big Lake, Alaska, along with some smaller. Here's a 2.7. See, I'm telling you, these are getting bigger. See, all these red ones are what's just come in since we've been doing our update. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. This went longer than I anticipated, but they usually do. So I love you guys, and my message is time is short, and I recommend that everyone get your spiritual house in order. No one knows the day or the hour of when our last breath will be, and when it will be time to leave this earth plane. But with your spiritual house in order, and with your heart free of anger, and free of any kind of revenge or grudges you're holding, and having relationships, wrapping up your relationships and not having any loose ends, it's going to make it a lot easier. So I love you guys, and until next time, my name is Margo, and God bless you. I love all of you. Go in peace, and good night.